Hey everybody, really excited to talk to you and share this information with you. We're going to go over 4 simple things that you can do with every training session that will enhance and improve each and every training session. Now, these things are good for teaching really anything. It doesn't matter whether I'm teaching the dog to sit, if I'm teaching the dog how to do a dog sport, or maybe I'm trying to teach a new trick. It really doesn't matter. These 4 things will help you be successful regardless. So let's dive into it. The first one I like to talk about is duration. So I'm going to write that down up here. Number 1, duration. And we keep it nice and short early on in the training process. Meaning I'm going to keep that training session down to 2 to 3 minutes when I'm teaching a brand new behavior to the dog, or when I'm working with a dog who does not have a lot of training experience. Just like you and I, we can run on fumes after the day goes on too long, and then the quality of our work starts to go downhill. So what we're trying to avoid is keeping the dog from checking out and the quality of the training session going down. If I can have multiple successful training sessions with a lot of successful repetitions throughout the day, that is going to be a lot better than having one long training session that eventually starts going downhill. Now keep in mind, 2 to 3 minutes is not a lot of time. So when I talk about 2 to 3 minutes, if I have a dog who's either working on a behavior or a cue that they've been doing for quite some time, or if we have a dog who's used to learning or used to working and training, then I can probably move that training session up anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes for those dogs. Now again, 5 to 10 minutes, this should not happen overnight. This should take a little bit of time before I move up to that. Now, that's step number 1. Step number 2, we need to talk about rate of reinforcement. So I'm going to write that down. We've got rate of reinforcement. Now, when I talk about rate of reinforcement, that is how often I'm reinforcing the dog for doing something well. Now, where this comes into play, it's rather easy if I'm doing something the dog is very comfortable with over and over and over again. But when I'm teaching something new, this is where this keeping the rate of reinforcement really comes out into play. We often find times that our dog starts to stall out in the middle of a training session. Maybe they're confused, they don't get it. They're just having a hard time figuring out that new behavior, and we see that rate of reinforcement going down, meaning the dog's not getting cookies, good boys, good girls, pets on the head, toys, whatever it might be, quite as often. I don't want that to happen. When I'm teaching and I'm working with the dog, as soon as that rate of reinforcement starts to drop, especially, and this is specifically really talking about newer items that we're teaching, the dog slowly starts to check out. They're not engaged in the training session. It's nowhere near as reinforcing for them. So what I suggest that you do is if the dog starts to stall out, take a moment to step back to something that the dog can do very easily. Maybe it's a sit. Maybe it's a shake, a high five. It does not matter, but simply step back so that they can earn a reinforcement. I've had this situation happen multiple times while I'm teaching a brand new cue. The dog suddenly goes, I can't figure out the next step. And we switch over to a sit or a touch. And very quickly, I'm able to reinforce the dog multiple times and get him back engaged in the training session and then start working on that difficult item again. All right? So keeping up rate of reinforcement throughout the duration of that training session keeps it fun and exciting and keeps the dog engaged. Now, with that in mind, we get down to number 3. And when I think about number 3, it's the value of that reinforcement. Now, when I think about the value of the reinforcement, well, I've got to make sure that that is valuable to the dog. And that cannot be determined by me. I cannot tell my dog what they need to find valuable, what they can't find valuable. It is my goal and my job as the handler and the owner and the trainer at that point to find out what is valuable to the dog, what type of reinforcement is valuable to the dog. Now, could that be treats? Is it a certain type of treat? Is it that the dog prefers toys as a reinforcement? Maybe my dog needs a tennis ball versus a treat. Is it that my dog needs a pat on the head? Every dog's a little bit different, so it's up to me to find out what the value of that reinforcement is. for my dog. If not, there's a good chance that I'm not going to be reinforcing the dog fully, and the training sessions either slow down or they diminish. Now, well, I'm going to give you a quick example of this time this happened in one of our classes. And I had an amazing client who always did the best they could for their dog, and we were in the middle of agility class. Now, this client was trying to get really excited and having a great time with their dog every time the dog learned a new obstacle. As soon as the dog would complete the obstacle, this client immediately jumped down into the dog's face and roughed him up and gave him all sorts of loves and excitement, and the dog would start to back away. Very quickly, the dog started to avoid obstacles because they did not enjoy the value of the reinforcement at the end. At that point, the owner had decided that this was valuable to the dog, and the dog was saying, no, it's not. Now, after a quick conversation and a few adjustments, we found what the dog did enjoy, and we were able to have a little bit calmer parties and treats at the end, and very quickly the dog was engaged and enjoying the agility obstacles all over. So again, a very good example of why we need to make sure that that value of reinforcement is valuable to the dog and not something we perceive as valuable. Now let's talk about the last thing, number 4 here. End with play. Now, ending a session with play. Now, this could be any type of play. This could be it could be a tug toy. It could be giving the dog, rolling them over and give them a belly rub if they absolutely love that belly rub. If I don't have a toy, my dog doesn't really care for belly rubs. Maybe I toss them 4 to 5 treats as freebies for them to pick up off the floor. It could be any number of those things, but I want to end that session with play. At the end of that 2 to 3 or that 5 to 10 minutes, I need to have 30 seconds to a minute of play at least. Reason being is that we take a look at these 3 things that we just discussed. Number 1, we kept the duration short so that the dog enjoyed it. So the dog was having a good time and they didn't have the opportunity to check out. 2, we kept the rate of reinforcement up. That is awesome. Dog's engaged, having a wonderful time because they're continuously being reinforced for a job well done. 3, the value of that reinforcer became something incredible for the dog as well. We made sure that that item that they were getting consistently was something they really enjoyed. If I end that 2 to 3 minutes and just simply walk off, we may leave the dog questioning and wondering what happened and what caused you just to completely end the fun and games that they were having. End it with play or something reinforcing. This way, the training's done, we stopped asking anything out of them, and we can love on them for a few, have a good time, and then we can walk away from the training session. I want to ensure the dog looks forward to the beginning, the middle, and the end of every training session. They'll be fully engaged, and within a couple of training sessions, you're going to find that your training sessions are turning around. They're becoming more successful. The dog's starting to be able to work a little bit longer, and the dog really works until the end because they start realizing something awesome happens at the end. That's your 4 tips to ensure or to improve each and every one of your training sessions. Can't wait to share some more information with you guys. Make sure you hit us up with any questions. We'll see you next time.